Hi everyone, it's Miss Christopher here today. I don't know, you can't see me, so I'm saying hi. I thought that it would be a good idea for us to review quadrilaterals before we wrap this particular chapter up. So if you want to follow along with me, I'm going to go through the different quadrilaterals that we have talked about in this chapter. If you want to pause this video and grab a piece of paper and pencil or markers or whatever you would like, then go ahead and do that. I'm going to make sort of a little anchor chart kind of to help you, or a little study guide to help you know the difference between the quadrilaterals, okay? So the title of my paper here is going to be simply Quadrilaterals. And the reason is because all of the shapes that we talk about today are quadrilaterals. All right, so we had talked about the fact that this word quad means four and lateral means line. So right there in the word itself, quadrilaterals means four lines. So a quadrilateral shape could be, a square, it could be a rhombus, it could be parallelogram, those kinds of things. So let's organize our quadrilaterals. We're going to start with quadrilaterals as a parallelogram. So let's go ahead and add parallelogram here. Now remember that in the word parallel itself, you have these two L's here, right here, and those two L's are parallel. So parallel, you see that they run next to each other, so they're never, ever going to cross. So right there in that word parallel, we have parallel lines. So parallelogram is a quadrilateral, and by definition, our parallelogram, or every parallelogram, is or has two sets of opposite lines that are parallel. So parallelograms have opposite, or we could say that the opposite sides are parallel. And I'll show you that in a moment. There's those two lines, okay? Oh, even LL and L. We have three parallel lines in the word parallel. So one example of a parallelogram, or our main example of a parallelogram we're going to start with is a square. So a square by definition, so here's a square. A square has opposite sides parallel. So this side and this side are parallel. This side and this side are parallel. A square also has four right angles, and each one of these sides is the same length. So a square has multiple things that are special about a square. So let's take our square here. I'm going to put my square over here, and let's go ahead and draw a square, okay? So a few things about a square. What did we say? It has the same, all the sides are the same length. It has four right angles, and it has four sides, same length, four right angles. Oh, and parallel lines. That's right, I almost forgot. So opposite sides are parallel. We're gonna leave it like that for a moment because I want you to see the similarity between some other things. The other shape that we have that has similar characteristics to a square is, let's put over here, a rectangle. Okay, and a rectangle, here's an example of a rectangle. A rectangle has opposite sides parallel. So by parallelogram, we have these two sides are parallel and these two sides are parallel, meaning if they were to run consistently and continue on, they would never touch. These two as well, okay? So opposite sides parallel, so it's a parallelogram, and you'll note that it has four right angles. The other thing that is special about a rectangle is opposite sides are the same length. So this side and this side are the same length. This side and this side are the same length. All right? A square is the only difference is all four sides are the same length. But a rectangle, opposite sides are the same length. So let's draw ourselves a rectangle here. We're just going to make it a little bit here. Now, some of you were talking to me about the fact that you thought that a rectangle is two squares put together. I mean, in this case, it's not. Like, for instance, look here. Here's two squares put together, and my rectangle is much longer than that. So a rectangle is not two squares put together. You have to make sure you're thinking about rectangle as a specific definition, meaning opposite sides are the same length, opposite sides are the same length. That's what we need to know. And so when we talked about the fact that a square is a rectangle, well, it is, because if you look at a square, the opposite sides are the same length, and these opposite sides are the same length. So a square is a type of a rectangle. But a rectangle is not always a square, because a rectangle doesn't have to have all four of those sides the same. Okay, just by definition, our square happens to be an example of a rectangle. Now, the other kind of parallelogram I want to talk about is what we call a rhombus. And a rhombus, some of you talk about or have said to me like a diamond. A diamond is, one way of saying a rhombus, but the geometric term is rhombus. Let me find a rhombus for you. Here's a rhombus. So here's an example of a rhombus, or it could be this way, okay? Actually, here's another one, okay? So a rhombus, the difference between a rhombus is that the four sides are the same length, so that's similar with the square. Four sides are the same length. All of these sides are the same length. All of these sides are the same length. There are four of them, so it's a quadrilateral, okay? And it is a parallelogram. This side is parallel to this side, and this side is parallel to this side. Same here, parallel, parallel. If I were to run my fingers and just keep going and on and on and on and on, my fingers are never gonna cross. If I were to go this way and keep going on and on and on, they're never gonna cross, okay? That's what makes opposite sides parallel, and these are all parallelograms. Let me draw a rhombus here. So, when I think about a rhombus, I think about a tilted square. I mean, we never say tilted square, but that's what makes me remember what a rhombus is. So a rhombus has four sides, the same length, and I'm not going to actually measure them out for you, but you get the idea that these four sides are the same length. We just don't have those special right angles, okay? So let's take a look here and look at the similarities between some of our shapes here. So when we look at this, I want to take a note that our square and our rectangle have similar characteristics. So let's put a little circle around square and rectangle, okay? So square and rectangle, they have, both of them, they have four sides, so they are quadrilaterals. They have opposite sides the same length, all right? So rectangle has opposite sides the same length, right? And they have four right angles. So we know these are all quadrilaterals. Parallelograms, rectangle, square, rhombus, they're all quadrilaterals, okay? The similarity, the main similarity between a square and a rectangle is the fact that it has four right angles. And that is important to note because in a rectangle, that's what makes this here and this here. Oops, I made that one different, right? A square, again, all four sides the same length, but a rectangle, this side and this side are equal, and this side and this side are equal. And again, you remember that. This side and this side are equal, and this side are equal. So again, a square is a type of a rectangle. So that's what makes it similar here, are the four right angles. Let's take a look at how a square and a rhombus are the same. A square and a rhombus, let's go ahead and circle that. So if you're following along with me, go ahead and circle that. All right. So a square and a rhombus, so a square and a rectangle have four right angles. Square and a rhombus, what's the similarity? Someone just say it. Oh, I think I virtually heard you say that they all have four equal sides. Okay, so four equal sides. So in this case, this side, 1, 2, 3, and 4, that's the same length. And this side, this side, this side, this side are all the same length. So they have similar sides in length, and these two have similar angles. So a square has characteristics of a rectangle, and a square has characteristics of a rhombus. So to see how we kind of made these all, or showed how these are similar to one another. They're all parallelograms, and all of them are quadrilaterals so far. Okay, so far we have all of these. And let's go back to our parallelogram here. I just want to note that Our rectangle is a parallelogram, our square is a parallelogram, and our rhombus is a parallelogram. So that's important for you to note that all of these are parallelograms. But again, all of them are quadrilaterals. This is our big deal. All of this paper, everything on this paper is a quadrilateral, okay? What's the one shape that we're missing? Did someone just say it? Someone say it, someone say it. That's right, a trapezoid. And a trapezoid is a special quadrilateral on its own. Remember, a trapezoid is a quadrilateral, so that's important, but it is not a parallelogram, okay? So, you know what? I think it might be a good idea for us to circle all of these. Let me take a color I haven't. Let's go ahead and circle. So if you're following along with me, circle this together. I want you to circle parallelogram, rectangle, square, and rhombus. So all of these together. All right. Again, all quadrilaterals, but parallelograms are rectangle, square, and rhombus. Trapezoid, a little bit different. Why is a trapezoid not a parallel? A trapezoid is not a parallelogram because parallelogram has opposite sides that are parallel. In a trapezoid, we have one set of opposite sides that are parallel. Okay, that's the difference here. One set of opposite sides parallel. Let me see if I have a trapezoid here. Oh, here we go. So here's a trapezoid. This side and this side, whoops, I just flipped it, but it didn't really matter. This side and this side are parallel. So if I were to take my fingers and follow along, these sides are never going to cross. But if I were to take my fingers on these sides and I were to continue going, oh, they just bumped. Okay, these sides here are intersecting. They're going to cross. So these sides are intersecting. These sides are parallel. So a trapezoid is not a parallelogram because it only has one set of opposite sides parallel. The cool thing about trapezoid is everyone typically thinks this is the trapezoid shape. And I want to show you another way of drawing a trapezoid. Let's look here. Let's grab this one. Okay. So a trapezoid, well, here, let's do that. Yep, that's good. Okay. So let's go ahead and draw that. So this could be a trapezoid, right? Like I just showed you. Because this side is parallel to this side, right? That's it. These sides are intersecting. All right. So remember, that's the key. A trapezoid could also look like this, and some people forget that a trapezoid could look like this. Now watch me carefully. So if I do here, and I actually put a right angle this out here, I'm going to pull this line, this top line, a little bit shorter, and then angle this one. So I actually have two right angles in this particular trapezoid. Is it a trapezoid? Absolutely, because this side and this side are still parallel. This is parallel to this line, okay? But look at this one. If I were to go straight up here and continue this line, I'm still gonna bump. So watch, still gonna cross. So this side and this side still become intersecting. These are parallel. So trapezoid can actually have a right angle. We kind of forget that sometimes, as long as one side here is intersecting to it and not parallel. So there you have it, okay? We have quadrilaterals are parallelograms or trapezoids, and parallelograms can be rectangles, square, and rhombus. So let's look at that here. Oh, let's just make this little thing complete. And there we go. Okay. So quadrilaterals can be parallelograms. Parallelograms can be squares, rectangles, or rhombuses. A square and a rhombus have similar characteristics of 4 equal sides, and a square and a rectangle have similar characteristics of 4 right angles. A square has all of it together. A trapezoid is different than a parallelogram because it only has one set of opposite sides parallel, but it's still a quadrilateral. All of these are quadrilaterals. Why? Because quadrilateral says it right there in the word 4 lines. And there you have it. La! If you made yours, send me a picture. I'd love to see it. Have a lovely day. Bye.